It was one of those rare, quiet Saturdays when the apartment felt completely mine. My husband was away on a week-long business trip, and I had decided to use the time for a much-needed deep cleaning. Dust had been quietly accumulating in corners, forgotten corners of the living room where the sunlight barely reached. The sight of it both annoyed and motivated me. Today, I thought, I would conquer it all. I rolled up my sleeves and started with the living room. The air smelled faintly of the lavender-scented cleaning spray I had bought last week. I moved the furniture slightly, giving the carpet a good vacuum, dusting surfaces with meticulous attention. Each swipe of the cloth brought a small sense of satisfaction. It was as if I were reclaiming the apartment for myself, piece by piece, while my husband was away. The flower pot sat on the windowsill, a beautiful little arrangement of geraniums my mother had gifted me last spring. I had never been especially good with plants, but this one had thrived. I paused for a moment, gazing at the vibrant reds and pinks that swayed slightly in the breeze from the open window. It looked perfect, but the sill needed cleaning. Reaching over, I tried to slide the pot gently aside, intending to wipe the surface. My hand slipped. Time slowed for just a fraction of a second. The pot teetered dangerously, then fell. I heard the sickening crack before I saw the shards of clay scatter across the floor. Soil exploded in all directions, tiny brown clouds settling over the carpet. My heart sank. Oh no, 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 I muttered, kneeling down to assess the damage. The geraniums were half buried in the soil, the roots exposed, and the pot completely shattered. My stomach twisted with guilt. I had been so careful, so meticulous, yet here I was, surrounded by a mess that seemed far worse than any dust or dirt. As I crouched to gather the fragments, my eyes caught something strange beneath the debris. Something shiny. At first, I thought it might be part of the pot, but it glimmered in a way clay could never do. Curiosity overpowered my frustration, and I reached carefully into the mess. My fingers closed around a small, ornate object. It was a tiny, silver locket. Delicate, old-fashioned, with intricate carvings on its surface. I had never seen it before. How could it have been under the flower pot? Questions raced through my mind. Could it have fallen out of someone's pocket months ago? Had it been hidden there intentionally? My pulse quickened with a mix of fear and excitement. I brushed the soil off, examining it closely. The locket was slightly tarnished, but still beautiful. I gently opened it. Inside was a faded photograph of a young woman smiling, holding a child in her arms. I frowned. I didn't recognize her. The child's eyes, though, seemed oddly familiar, though I knew they couldn't be. It was a fleeting impression, like the edge of a memory you can almost recall but can't fully grasp. I sat back on my heels, my mind racing. Who did this belong to? How long had it been hidden under my flower pot? I thought about calling my husband, but it was late at night and he was traveling. I felt a strange sense of urgency, as if the locket had a story it needed to tell. My apartment, once so quiet and controlled, suddenly felt like the beginning of a mystery. A shiver ran down my spine. I glanced at the broken pot and the overturned soil. Everything in my apartment had always seemed ordinary, safe, predictable, until now. Something about finding the locket beneath the flowers felt like destiny, or at least, the start of something I couldn't ignore. I realized that my deep cleaning mission had unexpectedly uncovered not just dust and dirt, but a secret hidden in plain sight, waiting patiently for me to notice. I gently placed the locket in my palm, still feeling the faint warmth of the soil on my skin. The apartment felt suddenly alive, as if it were holding its breath with me. Outside, the wind whispered through the window, carrying with it a hint of spring flowers. I couldn't shake the feeling that this tiny object, hidden under a simple flower pot, would change everything. And as I looked back at the mess on the floor, the broken pot, the scattered soil, and the locket gleaming softly in the dim light, I realized that sometimes the smallest accidents, like dropping a flower pot, could set off a chain of events you never saw coming. Little did I know, that one accidental slip was the beginning of a story far bigger than myself. A story of secrets, revelations, and encounters I could never have imagined. The locket still rested in my palm, glinting softly in the late afternoon sunlight streaming through the window. I couldn't stop staring at it. Something about it felt alive, almost as if it were pulsing with a story, waiting for me to listen. My curiosity had overtaken all sense of caution, and I felt an urgent need to know who it belonged to. I ran my fingers over the intricate carvings, tracing the tiny swirls and floral motifs. They seemed old, perhaps even antique. The photograph inside, the young woman and the child, haunted me. There was a familiarity I couldn't place, and yet a strange sense that it mattered more than I could understand. My hands shook slightly as I set the locket carefully on the kitchen table. Just then, there was a soft knock at the door. My heart leapt into my throat. Who could it be? I wasn't expecting anyone. My husband was out of town, and I hadn't invited anyone over. Hesitantly, I walked to the door and peeked through the peephole. A man stood there, mid-30s, dressed casually but neatly, holding a small package in his hands. His eyes widened slightly as he noticed me at the door. "Hello," he said, voice calm but carrying a subtle tension. "I hope I'm not disturbing you. I'm looking for a Mrs. Your last name." I blinked. "Yes, that's me. Can I help you?" My voice trembled slightly, though I couldn't explain why. He took a careful step forward. I found this locket," he said, holding it out. My pulse quickened. I froze, staring at him. "I believe it belongs to someone in your household. It was sent to my office recently, addressed here. I think it may have fallen out of a package." Confusion twisted my thoughts. I found this under a flower pot," I admitted, glancing at the table where the locket sat. "It's very strange. I've never seen it before." He studied me for a moment, then nodded slowly, his eyes flicking toward the locket on the table. "Yes, that's the one. May I see it?" I hesitated, then lifted it carefully. His face softened when he saw the photograph inside. "Ah," he murmured. There was something almost reverent in the way he handled it. This belonged to my sister. She passed away years ago, and that child, that's me, as a baby." My breath caught. That child is you." He nodded, his voice barely above a whisper. "Yes, I've been searching for this for a long time. We thought it was lost forever. And now, it somehow ended up here." His gaze met mine, intense and sincere. "I don't know how it came to be under your flower pot, but thank you for keeping it safe." I felt a shiver run through me. The ordinary apartment I had been cleaning suddenly felt like a crossroads of fate. This man, someone I had never met, had come into my life because of a small accident, a dropped flower pot, a hidden locket. It was surreal, almost like a story from a movie. He took a step back, then spoke again. "If you have a moment, I would like to explain the full story. It's complicated. There are things you wouldn't believe if I told you right now. But it's important. This locket, it connects me to my past, and perhaps to someone who can help me understand more." I nodded, feeling an unexpected mixture of excitement and apprehension. "Yes, of course. Please, come in." He entered cautiously, placing the package on the counter. As he settled in, I noticed a photograph peeking out from the envelope, an old, sepia-toned family portrait. The man's eyes softened as he gazed at it. This was taken just before the accident that separated my family. That locket, it was all my mother left behind for me. I could feel the weight of the story pressing down, filling the room with tension and mystery. "So, why is it here? How did it get under my flower pot?" I asked, unable to hide my curiosity. He shook his head. "I don't know. That's the part that confuses me. But sometimes, life has a strange way of delivering what we need in the most unexpected ways. Perhaps this locket chose you to find it. I don't know. All I know is, it's finally back where it belongs." The room fell silent for a moment. Outside, the wind rustled the trees, carrying a soft, almost musical hum. I glanced at the broken pot, the scattered soil, and the locket shining quietly in the middle of the table. The ordinary had collided with the extraordinary, all in a matter of minutes. And just like that, my quiet Saturday afternoon had turned into the beginning of a story far bigger than I could have imagined. A story of lost connections, hidden secrets, and the unexpected ways that fate can intervene in our lives. I realized then that this man, this locket, and the mystery surrounding it were just the beginning. What had seemed like a simple accident, a flower pot falling, had opened a door into a world I wasn't prepared for. And I couldn't help but wonder, what would happen next? After our initial introductions, he, whose name I now knew was Alex, sat across from me at the kitchen table, the locket between us like a fragile bridge to a forgotten past. His presence filled the room with a strange intensity, a mix of sorrow, hope, and something I couldn't quite name. "I need to tell you the full story," he began, voice steady but laced with emotion. "This locket, it belonged to my mother. She died when I was just a baby. I never really knew her, but before she passed, she hid this locket and a few letters with a trusted friend, hoping one day I would find them." He paused, his eyes reflecting a lifetime of longing. "For years, I've searched, trying to trace anything that could lead me to my family's lost history. And now, here it is, in my hands." I listened, fascinated, as he unfolded a tale of love, betrayal, and separation. His mother had been forced apart from her family due to circumstances beyond her control. The locket was meant to be a symbol of connection, a tangible piece of the life he never got to live. Yet somehow, it had been misplaced, ending up in my apartment beneath a flower pot I had accidentally knocked over. "I don't understand," I said slowly, "how it ended up here. It's surreal." Alex shrugged, a small, rueful smile crossing his face. "Life has a strange way of working like that. Sometimes, the right thing finds you, even when you least expect it." He leaned forward, his fingers brushing against the locket. "And I think, maybe you were meant to find it. I can't explain why, but something about this moment feels fated." We sat in silence for a while, the ticking of the kitchen clock the only sound. My apartment, which had felt ordinary that morning, now seemed like a stage where destiny had played a role in the most unexpected way. Broken flower pots, scattered soil, and an old family heirloom, nothing in my quiet life had ever hinted at something this extraordinary. Finally, Alex spoke again. "There's more," he said softly. He reached into his jacket pocket and pulled out a small envelope. Inside were old letters, fragile and yellowed with age. He handed them to me carefully. "These letters, they were hidden alongside the locket. They tell my mother's story, my family's story. I've never been able to read them without crying. And now, maybe you can help me make sense of it all." I accepted the letters, my hands trembling slightly. As I skimmed the contents, I realized the depth of the tragedy and love that had been concealed for decades. Stories of sacrifice, of hardship, and of unwavering hope filled the pages. Each word painted a picture of a woman who had fought to preserve her family's legacy, even when it seemed impossible. As the afternoon light faded into early evening, I felt a strange kinship with Alex, a connection forged not by years or friendship, but by chance and circumstance. This accidental discovery had brought us together, intertwining our lives in a way neither of us could have anticipated. "Thank you," he said quietly, his eyes locking with mine. "I don't know how to repay you. Without you finding this, I may never have known the truth." I shook my head. "No, I think it was meant to be. You needed this, and somehow, it ended up in my hands. I just helped it along, I guess." My voice faltered, but there was a sense of wonder in it. It felt surreal, as if I had stepped into a storybook where ordinary people become guardians of extraordinary secrets. For a moment, we both sat quietly, the weight of the past mingling with the possibilities of the future. Then, with a determined breath, Alex spoke again. "I want to honor her memory properly. And I think, you should be part of that." "Me?" I asked, surprised. He nodded. "Yes. Without your care and attention, without your accident that revealed the locket, I never would have had this chance. I want to return the locket to my family, connect the pieces of our history, and I can't do it alone. Will you help me?" I hesitated, then smiled. "Yes, of course." And just like that, my quiet life had shifted dramatically. A broken flower pot had led to the discovery of a hidden past, a locket that bridged decades, and a connection that felt destined. What had started as an ordinary day of cleaning had transformed into the first chapter of a story I could never have imagined, one of family, secrets, and unexpected bonds. As we prepared to sort through the letters and plan the next steps, I glanced at the broken flower pot on the floor. It seemed almost symbolic, a shattered ordinary object giving way to extraordinary discoveries. I realized that life had a way of hiding the most meaningful stories in the smallest moments, waiting for someone to notice. And I knew, in that moment, that neither Alex nor I would ever forget the day a simple act of cleaning turned into a journey of revelation, connection, and a chance to heal wounds that had been hidden for far too long. The locket rested between us, small but powerful, a symbol of the past and a key to the future. And I couldn't help but feel that this was only the beginning.